guys, what's up? It's Mr. HC Gamer 101 here, back with another video for you guys. And I really hope that you enjoyed that unboxing in the beginning, because that was actually a lot of fun to make. My LEDs are still in there. Haven't gotten those back, but they mess up the video anyway. So yeah, no intro to this one, really, because it's not needed. I got it, guys. I finally got it. Now, some of you guys will be mad at me for, only getting the Founders Edition, but I don't care. I got one. That's really what I care about. It's still the same GP104 chip that's under there, same amount of CUDA cores, maybe a little bit less overclocking room, but whatever. I got one. And I also got a CPU cooler. It's over there because I'm still using the stock AMD one, and it's loud as heck. Like, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to see if you guys can hear this. Alright, and I'm sorry for the poor audio quality, but that's because I can't find the actual mic that goes onto the camera, so I'm using the built-in one. But if you can hear that, I have no clue. You can also hear my brother's, but if you could hear that, that is pretty much all the CPU fan. So hopefully my CPU, I got the not the Hyper 212. I wanted to get the 212, but in my case it actually doesn't fit. So I got the T4. It's very similar cooling performance, a little bit less. It doesn't move the same amount of air. But I'm going to stop talking and let's get right into putting it into the computer. And don't forget, there will be benchmarks at the end of this video. So stick around. This is going to be a little bit longer of a video, but you'll get to see me install this. So yeah, let's shut down the computer. Okay guys, so we've ran into a little bit of a problem with the awesome GTX 1070. I haven't even been able to use it yet, and it's been 7 hours? I don't know, a long time. And this is due to basically Windows not working right. So my computer has never had an update of Windows 10 installed on it, ever. Like, ever, sort of ever, you know. The newest Windows update it had was from before the computer was even built, so it still had the OS that came from the retail key. And we don't know, my dad and I could not figure it out for the lives of us. We spent hours trying to look up all the error codes we were getting. It would not update. So that forces us to do a clean install of Windows. And I was hoping, okay, cool, you know, Windows has that feature where you can just keep all your files and update Windows. Well, unfortunately, Windows must have been installed in a weird spot on the C drive. This guy right there. You guys really can't see that at all, can you? Sort of, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it was installed in a weird spot, so it won't let me keep my files. I have to delete everything. Like, I'll show you. I posted a picture on Twitter. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, you should definitely do that. Mr. HD Gamer 101. There you go. Basically, it says nothing. Everything will be deleted, including files, apps, and settings. And I can't click either of the other two. They're grayed out. And it says you can't keep Windows settings, personal files, and apps because your current version of Windows might be installed in an unsupported directory. Thanks, Samsung 850 EVO. Thanks. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So I am currently backing everything up. So we got that right there, which is Fallout 4, because that was installed really weirdly from G2A, so I just want to make sure I have that. That's a video that I thought was awesome. And then we got a lot of my video files from my videos folder in there that are being copied to a hard drive, this hard drive right here, which is actually my backup drive anyway, but it's not backing everything up because normally I wouldn't have to do this. And also, this is all of my videos from 2015 right here, so backing all of that up. It says an hour, but it won't when Fallout 4 up here finishes, so that way these guys get to share the bandwidth between 23 and 28 gigs. So I'm going to accept this Skype call right here from Zach Weber and Colton Griffin. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on this. Okay, so I'm back after the problems that you saw. It has actually been 2 days since I have received the GTX 1070. The first day was mainly getting the problem of the drivers not installing solved, and that meant that I actually had to reinstall Windows. You know, awesome. I backed everything up though, so it's all good. And it works. It works great, actually. But one thing that you will notice in the benchmarks, which I'm actually about to talk about, please note my CPU. My system specs are on screen right now, but please note my CPU. My CPU is not good, and really should not be equipped with the class of GPU that this is. But I was given that processor for free, so I'm gonna take it for what it's worth. So, will I get a new CPU in the future that better works much better with the GTX 1070? Of course. But for now, this is what I got. So, if you have a better processor than the AMD FX-4300, such as the 6300 or the 8350, the 8320, the 8300, any of those processors with more cores would definitely give you higher results because the CPU in some of the games that I tested definitely held the scores back. But let's get right into the benchmarks with some of the synthetic scores. So let's start off with Firestrike. The non-overclocked GTX 1070 got a graphics score of 16,354, and when it was overclocked, it got a score of 17,251, which is amazing. And it actually more than doubled my GTX 960 that was in it that had a score of 7,250. So now on to Uengine Heaven. Please note that Uengine Heaven was run at 1080p using DirectX 11 at the Ultra preset with extreme tessellation and no anti-aliasing. For Heaven, we got a non-overclocked GTX 1070 score of 102.6 FPS, and when it was overclocked, it had a score of 109.6 FPS, which is amazing, especially compared to the GTX 960, which I had before, which got a meager 45.2 FPS. Now moving on to real-world games. In Tom Clancy's The Division, the non-overclocked GTX 1070 got 57 frames per second, and the overclocked GTX 1070 got 57.1 frames per second. So that is within the margin of error, but please note the Tom Clancy's The Division is actually quite a CPU-intensive game that was definitely holding back my system, and that FPS would definitely be over the 60 FPS mark. Of course, we're running at all ultra settings. All games here are running the maxed out settings that they can possibly get to. But even though the GTX 1070 is being held back by the CPU, that still annihilates my GTX 960's average of 32.9 FPS. So moving on to Star Wars Battlefront, it is an awesome story to tell once again, of course, maxed out settings. So for the GTX 1070 not overclocked, we got an average of 126 frames per second. Now this game mode that we're playing right now is actually Fighter Squadron on the new Bespin Cloud City map. With the overclocked GTX 1070, we got an average of 132 FPS, which is absolutely amazing. Great scaling there for overclocking. As well as it totally annihilated the GTX 960 that got an average of 107 frames per second. Now moving on to Fallout 4, which is another game where the CPU totally held back my system. It's crazy, and you'll definitely see by the numbers and what you're about to see right now. So the GTX 1070 got an average of 38 frames per second. Now please note this is a not a benchmark that is like in-game benchmark. This is actually me walking from one side of Sanctuary to the other side of Sanctuary and looking at the water and shooting around the gun a little bit. Now the overclocked GTX 1070 got 37 frames per second, which is definitely in the margin of error, but makes no sense, and the only possible explanation for this would definitely be a CPU bottleneck. And the thing that makes even less sense is that the GTX 960 got 39 frames per second, still at the same settings, which obviously points to a CPU bottleneck. Now on the final game that I tested, we tested Battlefield 4, of course, and this is a game that actually scaled alright. Now please note, Battlefield 4 is also a somewhat CPU intensive game, and once again we see a game that was held back on the frames because of the CPU. So the non-overclocked GTX 1070 got an average of 67 frames per second, which is pretty darn good at all ultra settings. And the GTX 1070 overclocked got an average of 71.3 frames per second. And those are both great scores compared to the GTX 960's 62.3 FPS. But still, those FPS are not anywhere close to far enough apart from the GTX 960's to call this card doing what it really can, which again points to a CPU bottleneck. So guys, that's pretty much it for the video. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and hate everything about life. And of course, I got to give a shout out, I guess, to myself, sort of, for two things. One, I did actually set up a Patreon account, which is basically where you can go to support me monthly, just any amount of money, just anything. Just support me monthly, and that would be greatly appreciated. I actually have a goal on there right now for $250, so that way I can get an RX 480 and test it in a system such this, as well as another goal for an 8320, because that is, or 8350, sorry, because that is a CPU that I want to put in here so that way I can get full results. And when I do get a new CPU, make sure to stay subscribed, because I will be doing a updated video on this for the GTX 1070 benchmarks, so that way we can actually get real performance results without a CPU bottleneck. So like I already said, don't forget to leave a like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and hate everything about life. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. So, it's been Mr. HD Gamer 101 here. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.